this morning I have with me
Corey.
Corey.
That's right, from the mobilization team.
That's right, and we get to start our morning with you, which this is very fun.
What a gift.
As you're getting ready, you're settling in, perhaps
That's right.
stayed in on this rainy morning, or just joining us from near and far.
Yeah. Wherever you're
Does that make
tuning in
sense?
from,
Wherever
we're
you're
glad
tuning in
that you're
from.
here with us
We're
this
glad
morning.
you're here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so one of the things we're excited to sort of highlight this morning in this special space is our encounter teams. And Corey is our director of mobilization. So tell us, Corey, what is an encounter team to sort of set the stage for what we're doing?
Yeah, that's a great question, Laura, and we get that a lot. And so the closest parallel people understand is a short-term mission trip, but we take a slightly different approach to them. We're not focused so much on the work that we're doing or this idea that we're helping someone in a way that they can't help themselves. We're partnering with places that are already engaged in the work. So really, we're coming alongside people to encourage, support, and learn from them. So really, our encounter team process is about so much more than the work itself.
Yeah.
There are elements of community building. There are elements of discipleship. So you're with a group of people for an extended period of time, like preparing to travel, traveling, and then debriefing when you get back.
That's
so
right.
It's spiritual formation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which I love. And I love that really there's a focus on not just the trip. You'll notice that the language that we use is encounter teams.
Yes.
Because it's more than just what you go and do in that 1 week. It's all about the preparation. It's about what happens before, what God's doing when you return after the fact. And so that's one of the things we love about the encounter teams is that it's a great way for communities, for people to build community and for existing communities to continue what God has already been doing. So, so tell about the one that just got back.
Well, so just yesterday, actually, a team got back from Western North Carolina. You remember Hurricane Helene from back in the fall, right? And so part of our approach to that was a long-term response. We knew that there were workers already on the ground, and so we needed to come in a way that was actually helpful to the community. So this team was participating with an organization there, Avery County Habitat for Humanity, that's engaged in the long-term rehabilitation work. And so we have a couple photos from that we want to show you that kind of highlight the encounter team process as a whole. So if we'll go ahead and throw up photo number 1 so you can see that. That's the team right there. There are 10 of them, I believe, all together, all different stages and seasons and walks of life. But what's so beautiful about this, Laurelyn, is that they are building community simply by participating in the encounter team process together.
Yeah, part of building community is just consistency, and there is a little bit of intensity, and you don't always get that when you see each other for maybe an hour or two each week. And so this kind of environment really provides the space for you to have that consistency and intensity, but also you're sharing meals, obviously, as you can see. You're,
breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
You know, you're working, you're staying up late, getting up early, you're tired, you're relaxing together. And so it just, there's so many opportunities to just get to know each other outside of just the space that we can have when we gather here in town. So I love that with this team. And we can go to the next picture, actually. So this is some of the ladies that are painting. I think they were, what are they, water sealing?
Or crawl space?
Yeah, crawl space. So obviously we go and we want to serve, we want to be helpful, and this was one way that they could do it. And the work certainly is part of the trip, but we have all different types of encounter teams, and they do all different types of things. They're learning about different things. On this particular one, they got to do some work, and that's a piece of it. It's not all of it, but it's an opportunity to serve and help in our community for sure.
Yeah, we'll go on over to photo number 3 now. So this, if you've ever been to Grandfather Mountain, this is the mile-high swinging bridge. And what's unique about this photo is that because of the relationships that Avery County Habitat has in their local region, they were able to set this experience up for our group to participate in. And so those local connections, that local rootedness, that's what we're leaning into. We're relying on the people who live there throughout the year to guide us and to shepherd us through the process of what their community needs. We're not coming in assuming anything about it. Right. And so when we think of their community, like oftentimes for the last 6 months, we've thought of the devastation and the disaster, but we've got one more photo we want to show you. We want to remember, just kind of like as a symbol of hope, the beauty that exists in the North Carolina mountains, that's still there, that there's still inspiration, there's still God is at work in this place. And so we don't want to forget that when we're going into these places that have had a hard time the last 6 months.
It's a full picture of what we get to go and do. So we have several more encounter teams that are going to be doing all different types of things, learning about different areas. And so if you check out our portcity.church/life page, you can find out more. But for now, we're ready to worship.
Good morning, church. Welcome to the 9 o'clock gathering. It's good to be with you today. Thank you for coming to be in the building today. If you're here, if you're online with us, we're so glad that you are linked in with us through our live stream today. And it's just such a gift to be together. I was thinking about it just earlier this week. What a beautiful thing it is to call our church home. And this week has just carried so much meaning for me and for my family and for what we've seen God doing in the life of our church, specifically with Overflow, the gathering of 18 to 25-year-olds that I have the privilege of leading here at our church as we landed the plane on an amazing year. Just thinking about all the things that God did in the life of our family this year, I'm filled with gratitude. And because I'm filled with gratitude, I am filled with great expectation for what the future of our church looks like. And I'm just here to tell you, I believe to my core that the future of our church is extraordinarily bright. And today, as we jump into our gathering, we want to thank a very specific group of people who have been helping lead the way over the past year. And it's our intern program is an amazing thing that has taken a really beautiful shape over this past year. We've had 32 different interns leading the way this year. They started last August, and just the craziest group of people that I think I've ever spent time with. Some of the most devoted people that I've ever seen lead before. And we make them at the end of the year, we make them write a reflection paper on what they learned, and we have them read the Gospel of Matthew from cover to cover. We have all these crazy things. We're trying to make it like seminary, but it's not. But I wanted to read to you. They didn't know I was gonna do this, and I didn't ask for their permission, but here we are. I wanted to read to you a couple things that they said. One person said, "A year out from my decision to apply for this internship, I'm dumbfounded. I'm also freshly baptized and a part of our team, but I digress. Somewhere along the way, God defined my passions, redirected my pain, strengthened the conviction of His Spirit, broke the chains of my insecurity. I learned that God is here now, He is present, He is moving, and He cannot be slowed or hindered." Another person. Another important lesson that I learned during my internship was about my insecurities. At times, I struggled with insecurities about my role on the team, and I often felt pressure to have all the right words or to present myself in a certain way. Anybody feel that today? That pressure, I now realize, stemmed from pride, believing I had to prove something to others or even to God. But over time, God gently reminded me that He placed me in this role for a reason. My value does not come from performance, but from obedience to Him. If anybody just needed encouragement this morning, I'm glad you came to church. Serving on the production team means most of our work is done without much attention. But I learned that these small, unseen actions are deeply spiritual. God is present in every detail, and He honors our faithfulness even when no one sees it. That truth challenged me to slow down, to sit with God in silence, and to let Him shape me before I even try to serve others. I could read all day long. This is just a couple of the 30. We haven't gotten them all yet. They're coming. We're believing it. But here's what I want you to know. That's our church. That's what we are a part of. And if we sat here today, we could talk for hours at what God did in that one corner of our church this year. But the beautiful thing about our church is a house with a lot of rooms and a lot of corners. That is why at the end of this week, when I sat down to think about where we are, I just thought to myself, this place is truly beautiful. So, no one asked me to say that. And I'm not just saying that because I get a paycheck from this place. I'm saying that because I've worked here for 12 years and I've never been more excited for what God is doing in our generation. So over the next few minutes, we're gonna take some time. We're gonna talk to the people around us. Let's not be a church of strangers that sit in our seat, in our section, in our row, with our cup of coffee. Let's not do that. I know it's gloomy outside, and if you're online, we're not sure what the weather is wherever you are today. You can text somebody though. You can get on MySpace, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat. You can do whatever you want. Corey and Laura Lynn's gonna give you some instructions. But for all of us in the room, TI 45 included, let's take 2 minutes. Let's talk to the people around us. Let's encourage each other, and then we're gonna worship together. Let's stand up and do it together.
Hey guys, as Carson just said, we want to take a moment to just be present with the people around us, but that means we want to connect with you guys too.
Yeah.
And so one of the ways we can do that is through prayer. So if you have something you would like for us to pray for you about, go to portcity.church/prayer, and you can submit that request online so that someone that's part of our prayer team can be lifting you up and caring for you and walking alongside you.
Yeah.
But there's also something specific that we want to remember in prayer today. Laura Lynn, do you want to chat about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, certainly if you're local, you're very aware of the fires that have been happening in Boiling Springs Lake. And while they are technically contained now, there is still damage that caused. People were evacuated, or it was recommended, and that's just scary and startling. I know that several of the people from our Leland campus are even out there fighting the fires, and we're so grateful to just to support them and encourage them. But as we sort of talked about earlier with the Helene work, there's maybe a little bit of initial relief work to be done, but then there's going to be some rehabilitation. So if we can start by praying for you, if you need specific prayer when it comes to just how to respond to that, if it affected you directly or someone you know, please let us know by filling out that prayer form. And then also just let us know in the coming days how we can come alongside you and just help with whatever those relief efforts look like. But know that for sure we are praying with you and for you, and just asking for God's presence to be very apparent.
Yeah.
Worship together. I've searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. Man's empty praise and treasures that fade are never enough. Then you came along and put me back together, and every desire is now satisfied here in your love. We know there's nothing better than this love we sing. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. Oh, now I'm not afraid to show you
I've been strong and I've been broken within a moment. I've been faithful and I've been reckless at every bend. I'd have held things together and watched it shatter. I've stood tall and I have crumbled in the same breath. I have wrestled and I have trembled towards surrender. Chased my heart adrift and drifted home again. Plundered blessing till I've been desperate to find redemption. And every time I turn around, Lord, you're still there. I was found before I was lost. I was yours before I was mine. There's grace to spare for all my mistakes, and that part just wrecks me.
No, I don't deserve this kind of love, but somehow this kind of love is who you are. It's a grace I can never add up to be somebody you still want, but somehow you love me as you find me.
Who am I to think your glory needs my praises? But if this borrowed breath is yours, Lord, take it all. You are faithful and you are gracious, and I'm just grateful to think you don't need a single thing, still you want my heart. I was found before I was lost. I was yours before I was mine. You wear the scars for all my mistakes, and that part just wrecks me.
And I know I don't deserve this kind of love, but somehow this kind of love is who you are. It's a grace I can never add up to be somebody you still want, but somehow you love me as you find me. You love me as you find me. Yes, you do. You love me as you find me. You love me as you find me. don't deserve this kind of love, but somehow this kind of love is who you are. It's a grace I can never add up, to be somebody you still want, but somehow you love me as you find me. You love me as you find me.
I am an instrument of exaltation, and I was born to lift your name above all names. You hear the melody of all creation, but there's a song of praise that only I can bring. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. You are the infinite God of the ages, and yet you chose to make my heart your dwelling place. You healed my brokenness, showed me your glory. So I have songs of thanks, not even angels sing. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? Oh, there is no one, only you, Jesus. Oh, Lamb of God, anointed one, who was and is to come, seated on the throne above. Holy, holy, righteous one, who shed his blood to prove to us the Father's love. Jesus Christ be lifted up. Holy, holy, Lamb of God, anointed one, who was and is to come, seated on the throne above. Holy, holy, righteous one, who shed his blood to prove to us the Father's love. Jesus Christ be lifted up. else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. Who else is worthy? Who else is worthy? There is no one, only you, Jesus. Only you.
Yeah, we stand here before you as one voice, one church, declaring that truth, that you are the name above every name. You're worthy of the words that we sing and the lives that we live. God, and I'm grateful that even though you're so set apart, you're so worthy, you welcome me as your own. And through Jesus, you give that holiness to us, to me. God, remind us that we're your children. God, that we are holy because you are holy. God, remind us that you're with us this morning. And as we dive into your word and the truths about who you are and what you've done, you would speak to our hearts. It's in Jesus' name that we pray and sing and worship. Amen.
Just the beauty of that declaration that there's no one else who's worthy of our praise, of our life, of our words, of our trust, and of our allegiance. And as we move into just a moment of generosity in our gathering today, I just want to put a question in front of all of us. And really specifically the group of people here today or who are watching online, that we would consider Port City Community Church our church. When I say that, if you think inside of your heart and in the deepest part of your soul, like that's me, like this is home. The people sitting beside me, the people that I'm watching with today, these are the people that God has called me to be family with. This is our church. This is my church. I'm a member. I'm a participant. I'm a contributor of our church. If that's you today, this question is for you. And if you're checking out our church, or you're jumping into this gathering just for today, we don't want you to feel any pressure to the answers to this question. But if this is your place, if we are your people, I think we should all think about this question. And the question begins this way: is what if we all gave? I don't know when the last time you thought about that. When you think about the future of the church, you think about where God is leading us, and you think about how God is equipping us as a church to be the church that he's calling us to be. The question just consistently sticks out in my mind when I think about the generosity of our church through the lens of that question. What if we all gave? And then you think about, there's 3 blanks, so there's 3 qualifiers. What if we all gave something? I think some of us, we don't give because of what we are unable to give. We don't feel like we're able to give enough. We don't feel like we're able to contribute financially enough to make it worth it. But what if we didn't let shame do the talking anymore? And what if we just said we're gonna be a type of church where everyone who calls Port City home contributes something? And then let's add one more word to it. What if we all gave sacrificially? When we think about the mission and the vision and the future of our church, what if we believed in what God is calling us to do, so much so that we were willing to give sacrificially? That we were willing to go above and beyond maybe what we're used to giving, to continue contributing in a new way, in a deeper way, and perhaps a bigger way to what God is doing in our church. And then thirdly, what if we all gave consistently? I think when I think about the consistency of giving in my life, I'll give you the real honest truth. I wasn't planning to do this, but I'm just gonna give it to you really, really clean today. Last Friday, my giving automatically came out of my account, and I was like, I don't know if there's enough money in the checking account to float that money. So I log in and I had a couple dollars to spare. And there was something in me that was like pretty frustrated. I was like, okay, I wish there was a little bit more. I wish that there was a little bit left over. But there was something also in me that I felt like God saying, hey, I got it. You just give something. You just keep giving sacrificially, and you just keep giving consistently, and watch what I will do in your life and in your heart and in our church. So I just want to encourage all of us today that consider Port City Community Church our home. If we consider this our church, what if we all gave? And what if we all gave something sacrificially and we did it consistently? I would just love for us to consider that question today, and we're gonna give you a few minutes to consider it, to sit in it, to breathe through it, and then in just a few minutes after that, our Pastor Mike will be out to continue our series called Unbelievably Good.
It's great to see you. Thank you so much. It's good to be together. It's like the perfect day, weather day, to be in church, because like you're not worried about being at the beach because it's not that nice. But it's also, if you stay at home because it's raining, you're kind of like, yeah, you're kind of anyway. Glad you guys are here and made it out this morning. We're in a series called Unbelievably Good, and this has really been picking up from some of our own exploration, our exploration as a church, as we think about what the gospel is and why it is good news for the human condition, for you and for me. And if you're kind of joining in and haven't been here, you know, we when it comes to things of the church and things of God, we sort of hesitate, or we just assume that we should feel better or more positive about God things than we do. So we don't often ask the questions that we really want to ask. We don't really ever acknowledge that, hey, this isn't what I thought it was, or is there something I'm missing? Or because we just sort of say, well, if God said it, that settles it, and it should be fine. And then when it's not fine, we don't have any recourse or any way to kind of wrestle through that. And that's been a lot of my journey over the years. And so what I've tried to do, and you'll see some of this today, is to try to build out some foundational, because one of the things is I don't want to ever do is just to go, let's get some clever content, some clever cliche things that people will resonate with and go, oh yeah, that's good. But I want us to understand some things. I want us to understand some things in a way that you can make decisions about, that you can build your life upon, that matter in our relationships and the way that we are in the world. And that's what I want to happen in our church. And so part of, at Easter, I had everybody kind of imagine what it was like to be born, and none of us can really imagine. We don't know what it was like because we don't remember it. But you kind of imagine being in this like really squishy place that's warm, and you don't have to do anything, and then you're all of a sudden not, and it's cold, and you're screaming, and now somebody's got to take care of you, and you've got to live off a different source. You got to figure out how to breathe and eat and all the things that go along with that. And then eventually people start expecting things from you, and you cause things. And it's like, can I not just go back to the way it was? Right? That was a lot better. And then you sort of ask the same question, maybe with a little bit more of a Jesus twist. And you say, can you imagine what it's like to be born again? To actually say, okay, I have now moved from one thing into another. I have a new source. I have to go and acclimate to this new way of life, to this new space in which I've been born into. I now have things expected of me, responsibility in these things, and to actually have an imagination to say, what does it mean for us to be born again? And part of what I want to do today, because this is like a lot of you who've grown up in the church, you've heard this, like, I'm born again, and it means like, now you go point your finger at everybody else and tell them they're not. And that's not what it means. We're born again into a kind of life that we have to acclimate to and understand and learn how to live within. And what I want to address today is, what does it mean to be born again in that sense? And are you? Like at some point we have to decide, do we believe and trust this or do we not? And that's a normal thing. And I want to try to give us some handles for that and maybe ways for us to understand that, because some of you are here and you hear that and you immediately start going, oh my gosh, I said a bad word yesterday, I must not be born again. Or, oh my gosh, I've done these things, I must not be born again. And you're always on this sort of, this treadmill of trying to figure out if you're saved or if you're not saved, or if you've been born again or if you're not been born again. That is not what I want to do today. I just want to give us some handles that you can, actually I think will give you much more hope than you think that you can have about what it really means to have a sense of security in your faith. That's what I want to do today. So a couple of foundations I want to give you, and I want to build this out because this is, again, how I think. So I'm just kind of bringing you into my brain, as scary as that might be. But number one is that God's love is the only sufficient source for human relationships. Okay, that's a big statement. So you've got to determine some of these things. You have to say, I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if I believe that. That's fine. Then push on it. Ask yourself, do you believe this? Do you trust this? But at some point, there's something that sources the way human beings interact with one another. And what I've come to believe is that this love that comes from God, this thing that He is, given to humans, becomes the only sufficient source for us to relate to one another the way that we long to relate to one another. And then the second, we kind of build on that, and it's that God's love is not only sufficient for human relationships, but it's the only sufficient foundation for the fullness of human expression. So without this submission to God, and again, just sort of background, one of my sort of core convictions is that if God created life, He gets to define it. So I'm always trying to say, okay, God, if you've caused this or created this or intended this, how then do you define this, or how do you instruct us in this so that I can come underneath that? So whether it's relationships or human flourishing or any of these things, we've got to have vision for these things. And so the way I look at this, and again, I drew this out last week, I'm going to give us some context today. I'm going to go pretty quickly. But there's these two ways in which we find vision, foundation, these kind of ideas. And one is under a system or a rule of law. And that's just how I'm kind of using the biblical idea. But it's also network interrupted. Very uncool. Tell me we have internet again, so we're good. So if you have your outlines, we'll just leave it up there to remind us what's happening. There are these two poles. So I'm trying to talk through this. If you have your outlines, you can follow along. But there's these two ideas. One is law, and the other, and what I talk about is there's another governance, and it's the rule of love. That love actually does have the power to govern us. It causes us to act in certain ways. It restrains behaviors. It causes behaviors. It does all these things. We either do things because we're obligated to them. We feel obligated to them. If we don't do them, we are punished. If we do them, we are rewarded, is one system. And then there's something else over here that exists. And so I'm trying, I believe that what has happened is we are born again, we are born into a new way of relating to one another, a new way of life, a new way for us to be together as human beings. There's a vision for this. And the vision that seems to happen, this is really, if you just kind of, a little bit oversimplified, but the vision that sort of in the world under this rule of law is basically the high value of human cooperation, human participation, is the idea of fairness. That you just want everything to be fair. That's what happens when we're kids. When something doesn't go our way, we say, it's not fair. And then so we build a system to try to create some system of fairness that we can all participate well. And then there's a sense of justice. How is this sort of made right, or how is it enforced might be the better way. And the way it's enforced, do we have it yet? Nope. Hold on. So we've had this idea of fairness. It's not working. Forget it. So I'm gonna just keep following on. So there's this idea that we have this sense of justice, or how we execute on it, that is largely based on reward or punishment. This is where we get all the sort of the threatening parents and all the things come into this sort of way of thinking. And what there is, there's a way in which we have to operate in this world, and the currency, the way we know that we're doing this or not, is by way of have you proved it? Have you earned what it is that you're getting? So it's this sense of proof. So on the other side, what you have is you have an economy or a vision of human flourishing. It's something that happens when we learn to cooperate together, and there's the condition for us living. This is where we have to start to go back and let ourselves imagine what it is like what does God intend for human beings? And then out of that, what you begin to develop is a sense of justice or rightness, which is built on restoration or restorative justice. It's returning things. This deals with our sense of purpose and our willingness to cooperate with one another. And the currency in the kingdom of love, and this is maybe the thing you need to understand. The currency in the kingdom of law, or in this rule of law, is to prove, is evidence. Are you giving evidence that these things are true about you? And in this other system, this rule of love, the currency in the rule of love is trust. And this is why I talk about this so much, because this is the only way that we learn how to live in the way that God intends for us to live, is to learn how to trust, how to build trust, how to steward trust, how to be entrusted. And so there's a vision for the way that we see this or understand this. And as I began to think about this, we're learning this year to live as disciples. That's our corporate word. There's these installs out in our corporate spaces in the lobby. And we type all of our words, and then our corporate word is disciple. And we talked about this at the beginning of this year, that the definition that we use of a disciple is this. And some of you, I hope if you've been a part of our church, you're memorizing this. But a disciple is a friend and follower of Jesus being trained and empowered by him to love, to learn how to live in this way. And to learn how to love fundamentally gives. It's an act of giving. And so when we withhold ourselves, right, we fail to love. We don't love when we do that, because love essentially gives. So we have to learn how to live in such a way that we give of ourselves. And what happens to us, to you and to me and the world around us, when we learn or we operate in a world without love, we think it's like it's just hatred, or it is those things that gets to those places, but it starts more subtly than that. That what happens when you and I live in ways where love doesn't govern, something else does. When you live in ways where love doesn't govern, we will often resort to sort of forms of manipulation, of getting people to do things for us or to respond to us in ways that we think we deserve to feel. This happens in relationships so subtly. If you walk in, you go, I've had such a tough day, my hair looks so bad. What is everybody who loves you supposed to say to you? Right? No, your hair looks awesome. They want you, we're like fishing for compliments. I do this with my kids all the time. They're like, Dad, you're fishing. I'm like, I know, I just need some affirmation. Because in the absence of this sort of sense of self, right, we pull things into us. There's this source that is essential for how humans are to relate, for how you and I to relate. And in the absence of that, you are largely going to depend on your capacity to manipulate. This is why we have people who are chronically live as victims, because it is a way to manipulate the things that they need or think they need or deserve. I think they deserve. And so we live like this. So when I'm thinking about what I want for the gospel, is I want for you to see this as unbelievably good news for the world and an unshakable hope for you and for me and for the life that we actually long for. I want you to see a vision, and we're gonna get to this, a vision of human flourishing, of what we can actually be, that compels you to sacrifice and to give of yourself. I want for the fullness of the life that Jesus has made available to us. And we quote this all the time, right? I've come that they may have life and have it more abundantly. This doesn't mean you have more cars or more ease or more comfort. This abundant life comes in us in such a way that we can give and offer it to other people. And it begins to fill us so full that we begin to feel everything in every way. The prayer that I've been praying is I want for us to be full enough to freely give. I want for you and I to live full enough to freely give, and I want for us to be free enough that we can fully give. When you can show up in places, in relationships, in your home, in your businesses, in your school, in your community, you can show up and bring yourself, and you are free enough to give yourself, you will start to experience this kind of life. So first things first. First things first. One of my other assumptions or sort of foundations for this is that we must first have peace with God in order to find peace in anything else. So that's where we're gonna start. One of my fundamental convictions is that what God longs to do, what justice is about, is this return of shalom or to shalom. And so in this, what shalom means is shalom, it's translated peace, is how a lot of us have heard it, which means like everything's cool, we're down on the beach and the weather's good, it's peace, there's no conflict. But shalom is much richer than that. The idea of shalom is this idea of rightly related, that everything is rightly related to everything else. That's the goal. That's what we're looking for. How is everything get rightly related to everything else? And this starts when we learn to have peace with God. And so this is where I want for us to look. Romans chapter 5. And Romans chapter 5 is just 5, 6, 7, 8, really the whole section through there is just dense. So I'm just gonna pull a couple of passages from here because I want us to notice some things. And I'm not sure if we'll have this on the screen or not, but perhaps we can get it up there. Probably not, is my guess. I don't have to write on it, but at least if we can get it without, yes! Romans chapter 5, verse 1. And this comes on the heels of Paul writing about this sort of reconciliation, this idea of that we have been made alive in Christ, that the law has been sort of diminished, and then now we live under a different rule. And so he says, therefore, he's using these words, since we've been justified through faith. We've been justified. This word is really important because this word is the same word that is used for righteousness or rightness. We have been made right. We've heard this a lot of times as though it's just a simple financial transaction, and there's parts of that are true, but that's incomplete. We have been justified through what? Through faith, through what you believe. And because of this, we have what's next? We have peace with God through Jesus Christ our Lord, through whom we have gained access by faith. And he's talking about this capacity to live with, to remain in, to abide. We've gained access by faith into this grace in which we now stand. So there is a fundamental that in Christ we have peace with God. We have shalom with him. We have been rightly related to him. We have been returned to the way that we have been intended to live with him. This is really important for us because this is the first thing that has to happen, because it is from this relationship that all other relationships will find their place. This is the source from which we have any hope of human flourishing. And so as we learn how to sort of see this, it's through faith into this grace which we now stand. It is from that place we learn how to walk and take steps. So I keep looking at this and kind of rolling down. I want to give you the definition that we use. Faith is not a collection of facts that you grab and you say, oh yeah, I believe these things. That's a lot of us think about this. What are the essential facts you need to believe about Jesus? Yes, I intellectually ascribe to them. That's not what it's talking about. Rick Schaefer and some of his team, we've used this definition here, that faith is trust that is able to take a step. I want to show you what I mean by this in just a minute. It's trust that is able to take a step. This means that there's some capacity we've been given that allows us to continue in it. It comes to us, but it is something that we trust enough to do something about. Are you willing to do something, to act on what it is that you believe? That's part of why these foundational components are so important. I don't want to just build a lot of information we all go, yes, I agree with that. I want us to build something that we're willing to walk on and walk from. And so Paul continues as he talks to this. We enter in this grace in which we now stand. And so we boast in the hope of the glory of God, that this access we have, this weight of his image being formed in us, that we're gonna boast in that. Not only so, but we also take this same sense of glory or sense of worth in our sufferings. This all of a sudden moves outside of our comfort and our capacity to be to avoid conflict, but we embrace this in our sufferings, and here's why. Because we know that suffering produces perseverance, and perseverance character, and character produces hope. That this deep sense of hope we have comes from somewhere inside of us. And hope does not put us to shame, and it really, the idea is that we aren't disappointed. It means that you weren't wrong in what you hope for. That's why we don't put our hope too firmly in things, because if it doesn't turn out, we don't want to be disappointed or we don't want to be wrong about what we hoped. He says, whoever hopes in this, that's never going to happen to you. And then he says, why? Because what? Because God's love has been poured out into our hearts, filling us through the Holy Spirit, through his presence who has been given to us. This is unbelievably good news for us, right? Particularly when we sort of think that, or in our world where it's unbelievably good, it's also unbelievably hard, where we tend to think of good news as being that of ease or comfort. And here he just acknowledges that this process by which we grow and change and become is so important for who we are. And I want to just keep kind of walking through. We'll skip down. Paul writes and kind of deep dives into that. And then he picks up here in verse 10, and you begin to see this unfold. And he says, for if while we were God's enemies, while we were still God's enemies, we were reconciled to him through the death of his son. So we make these two categories, that we've been reconciled to him through the death of his son, having much more, right, having been reconciled again, we shall be saved through his life. Now, how you envision this, we don't have that. Did I not give the next one? It's frozen again. Okay. So the two things I want to, again, set this back up. We have been reconciled in his death. How much more will we be saved through his life? We've been reconciled through his death. How much more will be saved through his life? So here's the thing. What does it look like for you to be saved through his life? You have to start to think of this, because the pictures that we have are largely inadequate for us to really understand or to step into this in any meaningful ways. If to be saved through his life only means that you get to go to heaven when you die, you miss a lot of what happens here. If being saved through his life means that somehow you have to mine out every principle that he's ever taught in the Gospels and then execute in them in your life, you're gonna miss out on the life that he's wants. What he's talking about here, the life that he's lived, has been that God's love has been poured out to us, filling our hearts through his presence, through his Spirit with us. And it awakens us, sources us to this new way of life. How much more will be saved is that we experience this kind of deliverance. That what's happened to us is we have been made right with God. We've been reconciled to him. We have been forgiven. We have been forgiven. I'm going to talk about this in just a minute. That we don't owe him anything in response to our sins to atone for them, because he's already been forgiven. This does not mean that we can just do what we want. Rather, it means that we have to learn to live rightly related to him. Right, what has happened in forgiveness is not just that you've been cleaned and to do what you want. You have been returned to peace with God and to learn to live rightly related to him. It is unbelievably good to have peace with God. We have been saved, right, reconciled in his death. We have been saved through his life. The word that is used for this in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, he made him who knew no sin to be sin, so that you and I might become the very righteousness of God. We might become the very justice of God. This is the same word. The Greek word, I've taught this before, is the Greek word dikaiosune. It's a spectacular word. Dallas Willard writes a lot about this, and it's so eye-opening. But dikaiosune, meaning righteousness, is this idea of what happens when we are rightly related once again. That there's a deep sense of goodness about us that allows us to participate consistently with what God intends because we are coming to bear his image. The way I think of dikaiosune, the way I translate this word is there's a goodness that affects us so deeply that from that we find hope that everything else could also become good again. Like it actually affects us in this kind of way. It's this deep sense of this, that we are willing then to persevere and to deepen, knowing that the things that don't go our way, the things where we face hardships or difficulty, they actually form us into a kind of person who learns to live from a different source because we've been born again. There's a rescue that has happened. There's a hope that begins to sort of build in us that is resistant to disappointment. We've been delivered and set on a different trajectory, the way our lives are used and the freedom we have to give of ourselves, one that is lived from having peace with God and then living from that peace, living rightly related to him. There is a rescue that has happened. This is why we use the phrase salvation. It's a rescue from the reign of sin and death. It's a rescue from a life apart from this source, from God himself, from this source that is the only foundation from which we can learn to live. Colossians, it's recorded like this for us in the book of Colossians, for he has rescued us from the dominion of darkness and he has brought us into the kingdom of the Son that he loves. Like the language of the gospel, I keep saying this over and over and over and over again, because I want us to understand this so deeply, that to be saved, to be born again, is to be moved from one governance into another, to be transformed from the rule of law into the rule of God's love, and to invite you and help you understand that the currency in this rule is trust. It's not promise to do better. It's not I'll do more. It is trust. Can you trust him? There is a rescue that has happened, and then we have to be resettled into this way. We are not used to it, nor are we accustomed to it. This has been sort of my journey, and I want to sort of provide some freedom, and I talk about this a lot, that a lot of times when people hear messages about Jesus or God and they've got to make a decision about it, what we tend to do as human beings, we promise we'll do better. That is not what this is about. Promising to do better is like trying to hold your breath for the oxygen you're gonna need tomorrow. It will not work. Try it, you'll die in the process, or at least you'll pass out and everybody will feel bad for you, right? So it's this sense, so I'm gonna try to, I want to give you 3 things that I think are critical for you to sort of test yourself and say, where am I in my faith? Am I born again? Have I been saved? Have I trusted this? And if you've been walking with the Lord for a long time, just use this as a sort of way to re-up and say, oh my gosh, this is more freeing than I imagined. It's unbelievably good. Number 1 is you have to actually trust his forgiveness. Number 2, you have to depend on his grace. And number 3, and this sounds so cliche, but I'm gonna try to give you a picture of this. You have to take his hand. I'm gonna give you 3 prayers that sort of help with this. The first is to trust his forgiveness. That it said in Colossians, we've been transferred from one kingdom into the other. And that now we have redemption, which is the forgiveness of sins, that he is reconciling the world to himself on the cross, not counting their sins against them, to trust his forgiveness. The prayer that I would use goes like this: Lord, I confess my trust in your forgiveness. I confess my trust in your forgiveness. I am reconciled to you and I am dependent upon you to live in this restored relationship. Can you help me learn to live at peace with you and from peace with you? It's the foundational relationship from which every other relationship will flow. Can you trust his forgiveness? This has been most of my journey. There were so many parts of my life where I struggled deeply with a lot of different things. And what I've had to do, that I've learned, this is not a quick thing. You don't just intellectually go, oh yeah, God died on the cross, and so he forgave me for my sins, I'm good. We don't believe things that quickly. There are patterns in your life that don't go away easily. There are consequences of things that you've done that may never go away. How do you live out of that? Right, we talk around here that it took just a couple days for the Hebrew people to be Exodus, to be freed from Egypt. It just took a few days for the Israelites to get out of Egypt. It took 40 years for Egypt to get out of the Israelites. Right, to think that your forgiveness is going to be like, all of a sudden, boom, it's over, I'm done, I do everything that I'm supposed to, is foolishness. We have to learn how to live in a restored relationship with him. This idea of forgiveness, I had to learn how to trust. I had to learn how to trust that God's forgiveness was sure and pervasive. And the way I used to think of it was that somehow forgiveness was real time, that if I committed a sin, I confessed it real time, he would wipe it away. And so what ends up happening is you have these places where you do something and then your response to his forgiveness is to promise never to do it again. And I've learned that this doesn't have to be earned, and it's not dependent on my capacity to not do things that I've been forgiven for. This does not mean that you can just do what you want. It means that you need to learn to live in a right relationship with God, to learn to live at peace with him. There have been places in my life where I have struggled to understand God's forgiveness. God, how can you forgive me for this? Have you ever felt that way? God, could you really forgive me for this again? How can you keep forgiving me over and over? And the truth is, he doesn't. He has forgiven you once and for all. There is no over and over. It's done. So what does this mean for us? It means I have to learn how to trust this and to live in a restored relationship with him. Lord, I'm dependent on you. And that's part number 2. Right, so let me just, if you trust him for forgiveness, that means you are reconciled to him. If you trust him for forgiveness, that means you are reconciled to him, period, the end. So how much more then are we gonna experience this salvation in his life, in drawing breath and life from him? This is what I mean by dependent on his grace. It is just like breath. It is sufficient in the moment, for the moment. The prayer I use is this, to trust, depend on his grace. Lord, I trust your grace in this moment, for this moment. This is a super easy job. Just get up, work one day a week, put together a few clever things, that's all you gotta do. There are so many times, I'm being sarcastic, some of you really think I only work one day a week. This is the easy part. But there's so many times when I found myself over the years, 25 years, of either raising kids or being married or trying to do this job or some other things I'm involved in, and you're so overwhelmed. You're so overwhelmed. Sometimes there's so many temptations or pulls or all these things that feel conflicted. And what I've just said is, Lord, I just need to be faithful in this moment. Can you give me grace in this moment sufficient for this moment, to depend on his grace? When I'm fighting battles with sin patterns and these kinds of temptation thoughts, it's like, Lord, will you give me your grace in this moment for this moment? Not to promise I'll never do it again. I just need to be faithful in this moment. Lord, I trust your grace in this moment for this moment, in this circumstance for this circumstance, in this season for this season. To learn how to depend on his grace. These two things are what it means to be born again, to actually have nothing separating you, to be reconciled in the relationship, and then to learn how to draw and acclimate to this new source of life that we live in. And number 3 is to take his hand. And the prayer here is, Lord, I trust you enough to simply reach out to you, trusting what you ask and trusting where you lead. You learn to do that, and you will find the life that you are looking for. Y'all know I have 2 granddaughters. The oldest is almost 3. and her name is Lennon, and Lennon loves to swim. We have a pool in our backyard, and she loves to swim. And there is a distinct difference in temperature tolerance from a 50-year-old and a 3-year-old. And so she loves to get in the pool when it's freezing cold. And so, because she says, Pod, can we swim? It's like, yes, we can. And so we were swimming, we've been in since, and I have a lot of philosophies about my pool, but anyway, that's not, so we're in the pool, and she's learning to jump, learning to swim. She doesn't swim super great, really at all. But she'll jump to me. And I'll get in there and I'll say, Lennon, jump. And she says, hold my hand. And I'll reach out there, and the first few times she's back and forth, even when she has my hands. And I'll grab her and I'll jump her and hold her hands, and we put her back on the steps. And then she'll say, do it again. And she jumps together and she gets on the edge. And eventually I'm like, come on. And she says, she'll reach out and she says, hold my hand. And I'll grab her hand and she'll hold on. And I'll say, you got to count 1, 2, 3. And then as this kind of progresses, I start to go, look, it's easier if you just jump to me. And she's like, what do you mean, like not holding? If I'm not touching you, how's this gonna work? I'm like, you're gonna have to trust me. And she doesn't understand this, but this is what we're doing, right? We're doing this. And every time, so now she started, she gets there and she does it, and I just put my hands really, really close to her. And as she jumps, she just basically touches my hands as soon as she jumps, and then we go in the water. And each time we get a little further and a little further away. And so every time she gets up there, she gets up to the top, she goes, oh, let's do it again. And she's so excited, and she means so well. And guess what she does when she gets to the top? Every single time, she hesitates. We have to go through the same process. It's okay, you can trust me. No, oh, Pod, I don't know. No, it's okay, you can trust me. Does that mean, you don't believe me? I said, I'm not doing anymore, right? No, you keep saying, because do you know why? Every time she gets back up there, the same faith it took for her to jump the first time is the same faith it takes for her to jump the next time. And her hesitation is not an indication that she doesn't trust me. Her hesitation and that whole process happening over and over again is just what it means to learn how to trust when trust doesn't seem to be really understandable. How is this gonna happen if I can't touch you? And some of you beat yourselves up for this. Because every time you think God asked you to do something, or every time you're struggling with something, you're like, oh, I don't know. And you struggle and you have hesitations, you have doubts, and you feel like God's sitting there going, that's it, you don't even trust me, I'm just gonna not help you anymore. And he's going, no, he understands that yes, it was hard the first time, it's hard again. And it's hard again. Eventually, Lennon will jump without thinking about it. That will become a part of because she will know. She will know things. And the same thing is true for you. There are things for me that 25 years ago were immense struggles and wrestlings, and if I make this decision, the whole world's gonna come apart, and how am I gonna do this? And God was so patient to go, it's faith, it's hard, trust, it's hard, keep walking. You have been brought into peace with God and have access to him, into this place where we have this grace in which we now stand, and now from this place we can learn to take a step. The whole point of the gospel is not to get you assurance so that you can know that you're going to heaven when you die. The whole point of the gospel is so you can learn how to live with him and walk with him and derive life from him so that you can actually derive the kind of abundant life that he's made available to you. And it happens by faith, by trust that is able to take a step. None of what I'm gonna talk about the next 4 weeks is gonna make any sense. It will make sense. It'll actually make perfect sense. It will be wholly unavailable unless we get this first one right. Unless we have peace with God, there is no hope. Unless we have shalom with God, there is no hope for shalom anywhere else. Unless we are rightly related with God, there is no hope for us to find ourselves rightly related with anything else in our lives. It is the only foundation that is sufficient for the fullness of your human expression. To be born again is to trust his forgiveness, depend on his grace, and enjoy a life by taking his hand. Father, would you call us, remind us. There are those in this room who are uncertain. Would you give them the courage to maybe ask, the courage to pray, to declare their trust, use these prayers on the printouts? Father, that we would trust your forgiveness, that it is pervasive, that we would draw sufficiency of your grace in this moment, for whatever hardship, difficulty we have in front of us. And Father, we would be willing to follow you wherever you lead and to do whatever you ask. Let's hear your voice. I pray all these things in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ, who is our King. Amen. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, church. What an amazing day to be together, and I'm just excited for us to be able to continue forward in this series. We love you. We hope you have a great afternoon and that the weather clears up a little bit along the way. We'll see you right here next Sunday. Bye, church.